Pelotero Pickle, episode 30. This one gets a little weird. We're talking poop schedules at spring training. Hunter Greene throwing 103 miles an hour. A lot of college baseball talk. We're talking skill versus talent. And Jose Iglesias is a magician. Pickle, pickle, pickle. Chris, this is our 30th episode of Pelotero Pickle. How are you doing today?
Good, man. Big day.
Crazy. 30 weeks, 30 pickles.
30 pickles. 30 pickles.
I'm not even a big fan of pickles.
There's no better way to kick off Pickle than the topic that you brought to my attention last week.
We're talking poop?
Yeah. I mean, it's an important part of the day.
Yeah. I think how did it come out? Your dog was eating poop?
Yes. Bolt ate poop. Allie had to take it out of his mouth.
I have just this ongoing theory that the older you get, the more you talk about poop. You get dogs that poop. You get kids that poop.
We poop.
Poop cycle.
Everybody poops.
Poop, like adult pooping is more important than youth pooping. So you just talk about poop a lot. And then we talked about poop schedules. Let's just jump into it. Poop schedule, spring training, go.
Poop schedule is really important, man, because I don't know how routine oriented other people are, but I'll tell you what, you've got to time your poops well when you're an athlete, because I think one of my biggest fears of all time was the idea of having to go during a game. Because think about that, right? It's not, unless you're DHing, and even if you are DHing, it's still, come on, man. It's too sensitive. You start getting nervous. So you combine two huge fears of mine. One is not being ready for an at-bat, and number two is having to poop during a game. And they both kind of go hand in hand. Maybe one stemmed from the other, but spring training's a grinder one because you start so early in the morning, right? And you typically live this night life type thing during the season. I would venture to say most baseball players in the offseason aren't the early. I know some guys try to train themselves to work out early in the morning, but I mean, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, whatever is, even if that's like the time you go work out, you're not pooping probably till 8:30, 8:45, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Spring training, you're on the field at 9. You got to get your early work in. You got to eat breakfast. So, I mean, you got to get to the field at least, I don't know, an hour before that. And then depending on the size of the clubhouse, how many stalls there are, it's always a rush to the bigger stall. Then wet wipes become an issue. It's a big deal, man. It's a big deal. So I always worried. So going into spring training, you have to change your poop schedule than, from what it normally is.
First time I ever got on a real poop schedule, consistent poop schedule, summer 2004, NECBL. Just the night games, one day blends into the next. I was eating breakfast the same time every morning. It was great.
Baseball-related poop schedules.
It's a routine. It's just a routine. You get into this, it's like Groundhog Day. We were just talking about, I thought it was funny, the poop schedule.
I was traditionally, during the season, I was a wake-up-late guy, right? I was a go-to-bed-late, wake-up-late guy. So during the season, you're looking at 11:30, probably waking up sometime around there. First thing you do when you get up, go to the bathroom. I didn't even need the coffee to go. A lot of people need their morning coffee. I just would wake up and go. But think about that's like 5 hours difference. If you're 4 hours difference, if you're 6:30, that's 5 hours. So you gotta prep for that. Worst thing, you're out on the field first day of practice and you gotta go.
I got a good segue right now. You ready?
Nice.
Speaking of pooping your pants, Hunter Greene is throwing 103 mile an hour bullets. Did you see the downward plane on this pitch? I hope Patrick inserts it into the clip.
I did.
His descent angle, it just like he threw it and it just like had a zoom button. It felt like when Mazda used to do those commercials, the zoom. Like his pitch has a zoom. It was like 95 on TV looked slow. That pitch did not look slow. 103 looked fast, really fast.
I'm the worst person. People used to ask me all the time, is this guy throwing hard from the side? And I had no idea because the only way I knew if a guy was throwing hard is if I swung under his fastball. I could never tell from the side. You try to gauge off other people. You make presumptions about who knows how to catch up to heaters. Funny story. I thought you were going to segue into big news.
College baseball teams.
Yeah, BC Eagles. Well, I mean, we always talk about college baseball teams pooping down their leg. In their defense, the Boston College baseball team is no joke right now. Just took 2 out of 3 from Auburn, down 9-1 in the ninth. Shout out to our boys Alex Trezza and John Murphy. Down 9-1 in the ninth today at Auburn, and put an 8 on them in the ninth. And my favorite player, the guy that I want to be when I grow up, Sal Frelick, hit a 3-run homer to tie it with 2 outs. They were down to their last strike at least 5 times, and big ups to BC. But again, that was not necessarily a situation of pooping down their leg. As we like to say in college baseball, the team that poops down their leg at least usually wins. BC earned all those, man. They there were a walk and a hit by pitch sprinkled in, but for the most part, a lot of hits there in the ninth. And then Lucas Gold, 2-run homer. So Frelick and Gold both had 3 homers on the weekend. Both had 2 homers on Friday in the game and then 1 today. That's a pretty good weekend, right?
Pretty good showing. Not bad for weekend series at Wake Forest. that
Yeah.
was.
A weekend series at Wake Forest turns into you taking 2 out of 3 from Auburn. Another shout out, Evan Slight, first collegiate hit, grand slam.
Oppo.
Sorry about it.
I called it a Crunch Wrap Supreme. It's not an Oppo Taco if it's a grand slam.
Yeah. That's even, what were the other one? Gorditas? Yeah.
Crunchy Gordita.
Crunch Wrap Supreme is better, though.
Yeah, I thought. I haven't had Taco Bell. I don't know if I've ever had Taco Bell in my life. Like I've never gone through the drive. I might have eaten Taco Bell. If there was like a bag of Taco Bell, I might have grabbed one. Taco Bell is not my jam.
I'm so sad for you. It's one of the greatest experiences you could have as a human.
I can do Moe's. I've had speaking of poop, ever eat it. Taco Bell.
Another segue.
I do Moe's, Chipotle. What's the other one? Is there another one? Qdoba.
Yeah.
But not a Taco Bell guy.
There was a time in college, and we actually saved this receipt. So on the weekends, we used to get together with the guys on the team that I was close with, and we would make it a point to go out to eat either Friday or Saturday or both or whatever. And never forget this: 4-person car ride, just 4 people ordering Taco Bell, $87. And we put the receipt on the wall.
How old were you?
19, 18. I don't know. I feel like I graduated college when I was 14, so maybe around that.
We are off the rails right now, and I'm all about it.
Yeah. So it happens when you record late at night.
Yeah, it's the late night. By the way, coming to you live from Dell Diamond in Round Rock, Texas. Got to go to the college baseball game today, which was really nice, actually, because people were outside and the sun was out and nobody was telling me to social distance. They had a sign outside, but nobody was enforcing it. It was nice. It was nice. Their kids were throwing 95 miles an hour. Kids are hitting doubles. Every single hit was celebrated like it was.
College baseball is getting fun, man. College baseball is making it. I think.
So this is actually the next topic. This is the next topic. College baseball. Why is the atmosphere so different? I think it's just a lot of pent up. Like we get to play baseball again.
Yeah, that's part of it, and I also think people are recognizing that the collegiate game is far more pure than the pro level game right now. Collegiate baseball is getting a ton of attention. Streaming is a real thing. College players are abundantly talented, right? And there's just a lot of emotion in the games. I compare it to international baseball or playoff baseball at the highest level. Just watching that intensity and those emotions. Case in point was that Boston College game. Guys are storming the field after homers, jumping up and down. It's a big deal, man. And I love it. There's so much pride. And you know what my favorite thing is? And I said this to somebody the other day. The difference is as much as you have your own personal agenda, right? Because you want to get drafted or you want to post up or you want to show or whatever. You ain't got to worry about getting released. You ain't got to worry about getting sent down. Like, yeah, you might get put on the bench or there might be a guy in front of you, but really still playing for each other. And that's, I think, the root of it all. And again, I'm glad the collegiate game is getting more attention. It's exciting, man. And we obviously have a lot of guys that we've worked with that are at the Division I level in Power 5 schools, and it's exciting to follow, man. I'm vested. I'm in.
I had a college teammate who got drafted. He went on to play 2 years of minor league ball. He was 2 years ahead of me. Center fielder, really fast. Jeff Barry is his name. He told me one time that he would have traded both of his years of pro ball for one more year of college ball. Like, that says something. It's just a different brand of baseball. It's not a job. You're there because you love it. You're grinding the weight room. You're on the buses. Everybody's going through the same fight. It's pretty special.
It's fun, man. It's fun to watch right now. And to your point that we're kind of on is there's some really, really talented arms in college baseball more than anything else. I think you see the impact of the swing revolution there too, where guys are really starting to understand, and they're allowed to move more freely. And not to say that they're gonna necessarily break some home run records or anything like that, because Pete Incaviglia hit 704 homers, I think, his junior year at Oklahoma State. But I mean, there's some things happening. I think guys, the tendency is players are getting more athletic at a younger age, right? There's much more accountability put on athleting, on being in the weight room, being diligent, getting the right training, getting the right nutrition. It's so funny when I talk to these guys, and after their games, they're eating grilled chicken and asparagus when we would have been eating $87 at Taco Bell. But yeah, and I mean, I think it's translating out on the field. There's some monsters in college baseball, and I think the game's evolved. I don't necessarily think it's better or worse. I just think there's a lot more focus on the athlete part, and when that athleticism shows up, it manifests itself in 95-mile-an-hour fastballs and really hard hit baseballs. I think there's still a lot to be learned. This goes directly hand in hand with the conversations we had with Dante Bichette about the 5,000 at bat rule. Players need to get at bats. Until they get at bats, they'll never really recognize or understand how to become the best version of themselves. And that's why I think, it's still a little bit raw, and it's still a little bit messy, and you still see the emotional side of the game, especially when you're playing on weekends and every pitch is so high leverage and there's so much emotion behind it. It's hard to manage that sometimes, but certainly, exciting to watch, I guess.
Yeah. I had an interesting conversation with Patrick the other day. Curious to hear your thoughts on it. We were talking about just a bump in velocity. It was the Hunter Greene clip that actually triggered the conversation. And he was like, do you think there's going to be guys throwing, like, a lot more guys throwing 103, 105, like really, really gassed up guys? And my answer was no, not at that velocity. I think more kids are going to reach their potential. More kids that may have never reached their potential before are going to reach their potential. But once you get up like 100 and 100 plus, I just feel like there's so much genetic factor in play at that point where it's just like there's only one fastest guy in the world. Like there's only one. Like if you're running like sub 10 100-meter dashes, if you're throwing 100 miles an hour, like we're talking about genetic thresholds of the human body. Do you think we're going to see a bunch of guys like just throwing 100, 102, or do we just see a lot more guys throwing 97, 98?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more likely to be that.
Jump. There's a big jump there.
I think it's more likely to be that. I always talk about the thresholds, right? For
let me say one more part about it. We were talking about Leiter and that Kumar Rocker guy on Vanderbilt. Like these kids are throwing, like there's a ton of kids in college baseball. I feel like you go on Twitter, it's like 97, 97, 97, 90. There's a bunch of kids throwing 97.
Well,
that was another factor.
That goes hand in hand with what we were just talking about, right there. These kids are going to start working with personal trainers when they're 13, 14 years old. They're working with guys like Eric Cressy and, these big time strength guys. I was at Exceed Performance in Westboro the other day, and Shane Davenport, great strength coach, works with a ton of NFL guys, professional players, and you got 13-year-old kids, 12-year-old kids, 11-year-old kids that are doing strength and conditioning classes, and I think it's that market's opened itself up to the amateur athlete, right? And parents are very consumed with the idea of getting their kids the best opportunities, which is fair. I think that focus is going into training, and as much as we're seeing these increased velocities, I think we've obviously seen a massive insurgence of Tommy John surgeries and shoulder problems and the likes, because there's such an emphasis on velocity, and because it's measured now too, right? Where instead of the potential of being at a high school game or a travel ball game and not seeing a radar gun, everybody sees a radar gun, where we used to have to do the eye test more often than not when we were playing, when we were growing up. So it's funny because people make the correlation that velocity, both in hitting and pitching, reverts to or correlates to being a better player, and I don't necessarily think it's true. So I watched a game yesterday. I watched Indiana and Rutgers and Minnesota and Rutgers, or at least parts of them, and the guys that were low to mid 90s, they just didn't locate one pitch. I'm talking, I didn't see one spot get hit. So again, it's what's the end game? What's the priority as a pitcher? Is to get somebody out or to throw hard? And I think those lines are a little bit blurred now for kids. I don't know.
Say you gotta throw hard before you can locate hard.
Yeah, well, but do you learn to throw first, or do you learn to throw? Like, do you just learn to throw, or do you learn to throw accurately first? Which one is it? And I think you can kind of go hand in hand, both of them at the same time. That would be my strategy anyway. But it's not. There's nothing sexy about throwing a fastball on the black. You know what I mean? Yeah, but when you're growing up,
I grew up watching Greg Maddox pitch. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah. But when you're growing up and you're talking to your buddies, like, nobody's trying to win the fastball on the black contest. They're trying to win the who throws it harder contest, because that's the only number that shows up on the gun, right? It doesn't show what your command score is. There's no command score. Now, it's a different story.
There's got to be a command score somewhere.
Somebody had to have made it up. Yeah.
I'm not deep into pitching sabermetrics, but there's definitely a command score somewhere.
Well, and this goes into what I was going to say before about the threshold for hitters, right? There was a point in time where, we looked at those categories of pitchers. You had the average Latin righty, average white righty, whatever, the different buckets that you put guys in. And for a long time, it was you'd look at the sinker ball righty, the Nick Blackburn, Scott Baker, Carl Pavano, whoever you want to call it, 88 to 92, 88 to 91, a little bit of sink, maybe a cutter, a couple secondary pitches, slider, changeup, and they really needed to locate and pitch down in the zone to be effective. I think that number's been bumped up now, where it's probably 91 to 94, 91 to 95, 95 to 97, 98 is plus velo, but still not crossing that threshold of really, really uncomfortable. And then you got guys throwing, 100 miles an hour. 98 plus is now you're starting to get in the territory that's scary for a hitter. And at the collegiate level, it's probably a little bit underneath that. So if you face a guy throwing 100 in college, you go, oh, and there's guys doing that. But I think you start to recognize the guys that end up playing at Division I schools can all handle fastballs. Like, I don't think handling fastball is ever the issue. Think about Aaron Hicks, right? Think about how talented Aaron Hicks is as a player. We watched Hicksy play for years when I was in Minnesota, and the days we'd face Cole, Wheeler, Trevor May in the Eastern League, and we had a gauntlet of guys to run through. There were some dudes in that league. Hicksy never had problems with the fastball. It was just never an issue. Like, you could throw a 98 to him, he wouldn't care. So good college players can handle heaters, and I think that's true as well, where hitters are learning how to handle higher velocities, because at the end of the day, they're building good swings and creating reactions to those things.
Did you see the tweet by Jeff Leach talking about the 12U pitching velocities?
Yeah.
Saying and I followed the thread a little bit because there are people like I replied, what? Question mark? Like, what? 75 to 78 is gas. Slowest being 72 is firm. 80 plus at that level is insane.
At least it's 50, 70 and not, the
46
40 foot mounds. Yeah.
So kids that throw that hard, and he prefaced it by saying, or he replied that this is a very like high level competitive tournament, like teams flying in. This isn't just like local Texas, like he's in the San Antonio area. This is high end, probably like guest players and stuff like that. So I mean, I took a team to Cooperstown one year and saw a kid throwing like legit 82. It was like, this kid's 12. Give me a break. He's 6'2", 225, and he's throwing 80 plus miles an hour. Those kids, like, to call them a 12-year-old, like they might be age 12, but biologically they're high school players already. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
I think part of this is because of the way travel ball's set up now, and we're allowing the there's just a lot more better players facing off at younger ages. It doesn't just happen. I never left the region to play an amateur game until I don't know. We went to the American Legion World Series. Like I never got to play games in Florida or Texas.
What about in Italy? What was the
That was
travel like
different.
there?
Yeah, I mean, the competition was high because you were taking the best players. It wasn't like you played an in-town league, right? You played.
So can you explain because most people probably don't even realize you played youth ball in Italy.
Yeah,
Can you
yeah.
explain that scenario?
So I was born in the States, and I was doing like the back and forth thing in elementary school, and it was funny because at a young age, what happens is if you just choose to play a sport in Italy, basically the town or organization that you play for has your rights. They own you unless you move or your family moves or whatever, and they're put in charge of your development. So I happened to grow up in this town called Rimini when I was in Italy, which is where my dad played professionally over there, and we were one of the better cities in Italy, notoriously baseball city. We had a good hoops team that played at the highest level over there, but baseball was kind of Rimini's thing, and it was in that central part of the country where baseball was really popular. And so when I was 7 years old, I started playing little league, like little league, where it was player pitch, not coach pitch or anything like that. When I was in Italy, and then I came home after I'd done t-ball back home, and I went and played 2 years of regular team like pitchers pitching, and we had an A level team and a B level team in little league, so it didn't really matter how old you were, just how capable you were. But it was up to 12 years old, and so I was playing 7 and 8 year old baseball in Italy with players pitching, and then I came back home and I had to do coach pitch when I was 9, and I was like, what is this? I don't even understand. So I was technically playing at a higher level in Italy, and it was because you didn't have in-town baseball. So in Milford, huge town, right? Huge baseball town where I grew up, you know, I don't know, 200 to 250 kids at age 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 playing Little League baseball, whatever the number is, 150 to 250 kids. So you're talking about not necessarily the best players, and obviously you let the players play. So I would compare my Little League experience in Italy to my Little League experience here in the States as much better in Italy and much more advanced. So I went back after my coach pitch year and I played, I think, my 10 and 11-year-old summers I played in Italy, but I played my 11-year-old spring here in the States. So I played spring here, and then I went and did my 11-year-old summer there. And I was part of the Italian national team 2 straight years in Italy. So I not only played for the city team, and we traveled all across Italy. So you have to win essentially your zone or your district, and then you play at the regional level, and then you play at the national level. So you're taking the best cities in Italy, and then you'd make regional teams. So you'd have all of the 20 regions in Italy would go play in a big tournament, and then they would take the best 22, 25 guys, and we would go play with the national team. So I got to play in Paris and in the Czech Republic when I was 11 and 12 years old in these international European Cup style tournaments, and we were really talented. We had some good players. I would say
Is that
four
where
or five.
the European team for the Little League World Series would come from?
So that was part of it, right? Like when we at the time we couldn't qualify for the Little League World Series, like that wasn't a thing still. And then now what they're doing is they're taking players from all the countries, and I think there's kind of some correlation to like kind of you have to pay or be part of some certain group because they're taking players from they're picking and choosing from all the countries. I'm not exactly sure specifically, but if you had taken my 11 or 12-year-old Little League team, the national team in Italy, we would have been pretty solid. We would have come and competed. And that's where I faced guys throwing 70, high 60s, low 70s at the time. And that's why when I'd come home and I'd play in town, I'd be like, Dad, I can't wait on these pitches. The guys that throw slow, I couldn't handle. I'd strike out twice a game, and then they'd bring in a guy throwing good, and I'd hit a ball. I'd hit a homer.
So you were the Aaron Hicks of Milford, Massachusetts.
Yeah, Milford Little League baseball. But yeah, I mean, it was certainly. I think it prepared me really well for having to play up my whole life. Like I played up through high school. I just needed to develop physically at that point. So, but yeah, I think there's more kids now that are obviously like playing in these bigger national events and really getting to see what the other side is. When we were growing up, we thought the kids in Florida all had golden spikes and, silver bats. And, they all wore Oakleys and had beards because it was like, well, Florida baseball is way better than Massachusetts baseball. And I think now we're kind of recognizing that's not necessarily the case. So obviously, I think the groups are deeper, but certainly talented players are coming from everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, there's talent everywhere. They just play more. They just play more baseball. They see more. A couple Twitter questions, and I just fired another one out tonight. But topic of skill versus talent. So I'm getting ratioed like crazy in a good way. I put out who is the most talented player, and then I also tweeted out who is the most skilled player of all time. Did you participate? Did you answer on Twitter?
I did not.
Who do you got on the most skilled baseball player of all time?
Bo Jackson.
So I put him in the talent category, not skill.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. I guess I misinterpreted. This is how different our brains are, and yet the same. The most skilled baseball player of all time.
I hate my answer, but I think it's right.
It's really hard for me to not say Bonds. It's really, really hard.
So he's the most skilled, probably the most skilled hitter because he faced modern pitching. And I think if he played today, he would still be really, if he could play his 2003 season in modern, like in today, he'd probably still.
This guy also won Gold Gloves and went 40-40. Let's not forget that.
Did Bonds go 40-40?
Yeah. If we got to look across
right now,
if we got to look across the whole spectrum of what makes a baseball player, I mean, guaranteed he walks more than
he go 40-40.
He walk. That's why I said it out loud because I knew it. I always say that to people. I'm like, I don't say things out loud unless I'm sure, unless I preface them with this, in my opinion. But anyway,
I want to know what game he got his 40th bag in because it was 158 games, 42 homers, 40 stolen bases.
So
it was close.
All right. So he definitely walked at least 400 more times than he struck out in his career. So we're talking about a guy
who walked 1,000 more times than he struck out.
Yeah, I said at least, so I was not wrong.
Would you say at least how many?
At least 400. So think
1,000.
about that. He had the keenest strike zone awareness of all time. He has the most home runs of all time, and he basically hit 300 for his entire career, and was also a threat to do what most guys couldn't on the bases, was stealing a very above average number of bases on a yearly basis. So to me, it's that there's, I don't, like, Babe Ruth didn't do the things that he did. Ted Williams didn't do the things he did. I mean, I don't know.
Babe Ruth also pitched.
Yeah, I get it. But I think Barry Bonds could have pitched too, because he probably had 17 outfield assists one year and nobody noticed it because he was too busy winning an MVP.
We're going to check that. We're going to check his standard fielding. Assists. We're going to check. We're scrolling.
This would be a great time for me to fill space with words instead
10, 9, 15, 10, 14, 14, 14.
So 17 and 15 are the same. Just FYI.
Hit 173 assists in his career.
And I guarantee you he threw the ball hard enough to be effective enough to throw the ball 90 miles
Do you
an
think
hour.
so? playing left field versus a center field or middle infield or even catcher.
Sure,
that's a
you
factor.
talk about high leverage positions, but you're winning Gold Gloves at the position, so it essentially means you're the best defender at the position in the game, right? So if you can be a Gold Glove left fielder, the argument, like when people are like, "Oh, Mookie or Jason Hayward is too valuable," and right, well, if they go to center, they're not going to be that much less valuable. Like it's not like they're not going to be. They're. I actually think it's harder to play the corners. Just FYI, this coming from a guy who played.
Do you know how many Gold Gloves he won? I didn't know this.
7.
8.
I knew it was 8. Damn,
pretty good.
7.
Pretty good.
I knew it was 8. I don't know why I said 7. Golly, what an idiot. Idiot. Anyway, I make a better argument. Go ahead. Give me something. I'll listen to anything.
My pick was A-Rod.
Oh yeah, I saw that on your Twitter feed.
And I hate it. I don't want it to be him. Only 2 Gold Gloves.
That's shortstop. You're giving him shortstop bias there.
Yeah, shortstops. Yeah, of course I am. I was a shortstop.
I'm not saying you're
shortstop way harder than. I'm not saying third. It's way harder than second. It's way harder than first.
I disagree. It's not way harder than third. It's harder than third, but I think third base is an incredibly difficult position to play.
If you go to third from short, it's very easy.
I've heard people say otherwise because it's a very reactionary position. Like you have to make you have to make really good first
think. It's because you don't have to think. You don't have to create time.
I felt I had a much easier time playing shortstop growing up than I did third base. Let's put that way. And granted, I never did a high level.
We're talking small field shortstop?
No, I'm talking about like
very different big field shortstop.
I'm talking about 13, 14, 15, and then 1 year of college. I had a much easier time playing shortstop because I had time to make decisions. I'm a thinker. I'm not a reactor, nuclear or otherwise.
Nice. A-Rod, also a 40-40 guy at the age of 22. His
had a season where he hit 360 something, 362. Did he hit in the season? 368, something like that.
358. It was 358, 54 doubles, 36 homers.
Yeah,
pretty good. Bonds did steal more bags for his career.
Walk the strikeout
for A-Rod.
Yeah,
I mean he didn't have the intentional walks, but he struck out 900 times more than walk.
So again, with Barry Bonds, we're talking about
Bonds had 688 intentional walks compared to 97 for
the best strike zone awareness in the history of the game. Fair to say. The most home runs in the history of the game. 40-40 was like a base stealing. I mean, that's just my again. I don't know. I think my argument's on solid ground. I'm not.
I don't dispute. I'm weighing the defensive position stuff, and it would have helped if A-Rod played third longer.
Yeah,
longer.
I wish Bonds played short.
Yeah.
Somebody said Nomar in your thing, didn't they?
Such a sentimental pick.
Do you realize how good, but do you realize how good a hitter Nomar Garciaparra was?
He was my favorite player. Yeah, I bought his
off the charts offensively, like off the charts. There was the time when it was him, Jeter, and A-Rod like were revolutionizing the position. They were right after Ripken or like at the end of Ripken's career, and Garciaparra was better than the other two. Like he was the more consistent player, and I always used to remember. I mean, Nomar had his quirks, but the thing that always got me about Nomar is if I felt like he lifted his elbow up over his head, his left elbow was like up over his head every time he made a throw. If you ever remember watching
he did that. He did his backhand jump throw was pretty good.
Yeah, but
yeah, Nomar was. I mean, being up in the Northeast, Nomar was a guy.
Yeah, I feel like
he was my favorite player through high school. He was my favorite player by far.
It honestly feels like Jeter played for 42 years and that Garciaparra played for 8. And I think A-Rod actually had a longer career than both of them, right? A-Rod's career. I think A-Rod played maybe 1 or 2 more years than Jeter did.
A-Rod played 22. Nomar just fell apart. His wrist started falling apart.
Yeah. Probably
he
fixed his batting
14, but he had a lot of partial years towards the end. And Derek Jeter
19
played 20.
Yeah. And I would have never.
And his first year was 15 games.
I would have never. it's funny because I would never think of A-Rod playing longer than Jeter, but he did, and I know he did. But I think Jeter was just in New York and in the center of it all, winning early in his career.
Yeah. Most talented player. I think Ichiro deserves to be one of the most skilled. Ichiro, like, there's an element of like knowledge and precision.
Did you see him taking at bat the other day and like literally put a ball in play? Like it was nobody's business.
Ichiro, I did not see
that.
that.
He took an at bat against Marco Gonzalez. Him and Mike Cameron both took at bats on the backfield. Cameron struck out on like 4 pitches. Ichiro was like sitting up there, like grinding out an AB, and he flared a ball out to left. And he actually turned around at one point and he goes, "Whew, good eye." He goes, "Good eye," like because he took a pitch, and everybody laughed. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you make the argument because he was like swinging a katana sword instead of a P-72 or
a lot of people said Tony Gwynn, and I said you're getting bad body points right there.
Yeah, I mean
that's bad body points.
I mean, if we're gonna say that, then we got to start getting the conversation with Pete Rose.
I'd be like Wade Boggs.
Wade Boggs, yeah. I mean, I'll buy it, but I think there's more guys that were certainly more talented across the board. So most are more skilled. Sorry, most talented. Oof. Like now it's got to be Bo, right? Like Trout's in the conversation.
Josh Hamilton.
Yeah, Josh Hamilton's a good one, man. Like
he came up quite a bit,
doing stuff in high school that was unheard of. It might be hard not to say Trout. It might be really hard. It depends on your definition of talent too. Like it depends on, does talent mean you have to be? There's got to be some element of get it done as a player, because Bo Jackson was good. He just wasn't great. I mean, Bo Jackson was ridiculous.
I think if we're just talking tools, that's different. So I feel like skill has an element of like precision and execution and knowledge.
The mental
is just like talent is more like raw, but still performance.
And it shows up, right? Yeah. So that's why
you got to execute. You got to execute.
I think so. Bo's a bad answer. It's got to be Trout. Is there a player historically that represent, like Mickey Mantle? I heard some stories about, right? Mickey Mantle was, he hit both sides of the plate too.
Another person that came up in both was Mookie Betts. I'm surprised you didn't bring him up yet.
Nah, Mookie's got talent, man. Mookie's he's a skill guy, but he's smart. He's cerebral. Do you ever watch a clip of him hitting at the All-Star game when he's talking to JD Martinez about the swing? He's like really exploring, using his brain. Because realistically, is Mookie that gifted? Yeah, like he can dunk, jumping off 2 feet. Great bowler.
Both 300 games.
Great bowler.
We both went there at the exact same time.
But I would say Mantle. I would say Mantle and Trout they're just different than him. Mookie's just not built like a truck. And it's not taking anything away from him. I think he's awesome. I love him. He might be my favorite hitter other than Sal Frelick. But
aggressive. It'll play. Yeah, fun conversations. The question I asked tonight that I'm getting ratioed on right now, and for those that don't know, getting ratioed means way more comments than likes or retweets. If you get ratioed, it's usually a good sign for engagement. I'm currently at 25 responses, 6 retweets, 5 likes. It's a good ratio. My question tonight was, who took the most impressive BP you've ever seen and why?
The most impressive BP?
It's a good question for you.
There's only one guy that really comes to mind.
Yeah.
Giancarlo. I remember he was doing his get him over around.
WBC 2013 Miami, and he was like the first like get loose, like swing to get loose round, not like I'm loose, I'm gonna like take an aggressive swing, like literally the swing to get loose, just flaring balls to right. He was hitting them 15 rows deep. Balls that if I hit, they'd be like bloopers over the first baseman's head. His were going out by a lot. Stupid.
It's funny. I never stayed out to watch the other team hit unless I was trying to say hi to somebody on the other team or whatever. I never stayed out to watch the other team hit. And when Miami came to Toronto, because I remember the WBC, and I didn't really get to appreciate. I watched him hit one day when we played him in Arizona, but it wasn't. It just didn't. I was like, so oh my god, that's my first game in a big league stadium type thing. And then I remember in Toronto, he was doing his like get him over, and I mean this is like the perfect example of a story getting exaggerated over the course of time. But he hit a line drive like over the second baseman's shoulder, and it went into the third deck. Like he hit a line drive that barely went over the second baseman's head, and it went into the first row of seats. I got another one for you. Another impressive BP story. Vladdy Jr. was like 12 in 2015, the year the Blue Jays signed him, or whatever he was, 16. I think they signed him.
He had to be 16.
And he came and took BP with us one day before the game. And I remember thinking to myself, I was like, this could be violent. And I'd spent all year, there were only like a couple select days out of the year that I could go into the Coca-Cola deck or whatever it was in center. You know, it was like that first row of seats. And then like those stopped in center because we had like a batter's eye or whatever. And then you had to hit it to the net, WestJet section. I don't know if it's that anymore. It might be Coca-Cola now. So there were very few days when I would hit balls up there. And Vladdy comes out there, he's 16, and his first round, he's hitting balls up there. And I'm turning to guys, I'm like, Pilar and I are looking at each other like, I can't do that, dude. I can't. So that was impressive. Watching Bo take BP when he was in high school was impressive. He hit every ball harder than I did. So that's when I realized, yeah, I wasn't that good.
Watching Bo Bichette hitting a group with literally a dozen major league players and be as a senior in high school and be the best hitter in the group and not be pooping down his legs whatsoever. Like
yeah,
the most
just
casual,
so he was so chill. He could have carried less. He was taking BP.
If I was a senior in high school, taking the BP with 12 big leaguers, I would have been shaking in my boots.
Would you have swung and missed at least once?
I hope not.
I at one point was so nervous when I first got up to the big league, I swung and missed in batting practice. And then I thought about Ted Williams' quote about, rethinking my life choices, like my career.
If you swing and miss in BP, reconsider your life.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, no, I tipped it. I was like, I tipped it.
All right, we'll go 2 post show here.
Wait.
Number 1. Go ahead.
Tell me you're gonna go where I think you're going right now. We got to talk about it. We got to talk about the Iglesias play.
Yeah, we got a double header for a post show.
All right, cool.
Defensive plays. I actually want to get your take on Yadi as a catcher. Like historically, where does he line up? But Yadi, he's catching in the 7th inning. By the way, dude, like just go relax. You're a veteran. You're one of the best catchers ever. You don't need to be catching in the 7th inning of a spring training game. But he like told the guy to run, and then he threw him out. That's awesome. Well,
and he also had just tried to backpick at first base, which was awesome. And
I didn't see that part.
No, somebody slow hit like an infield single, and then they got pinch run for by this young kid, Siri or whatever his name is. Sounds like Siri, and then all of a sudden the kid gets on, and when Yachty backpicked, the kid like Mutombo'd him. It's like you're not going to get me. And then Yachty just was like, yeah, go ahead, man. Second base is right there. Second base.
Threw him up by a lot.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty incredible, man. Just
if you're Mutombo, Yachty, you better be safe.
Yeah, he got thrown out by a good 4 feet. Yachty is one of those guys to me that's just hyper aware of everything that's going on. And I think that's what makes him special. And I also think he either has the best tendons and ligaments ever in his knees, or he has none. It's one of the two, because like catching doesn't bother him. And I know it's a Molina family thing. Like they were born to be catchers, right? That's the Molinas. Squatting is like standing for most people, I imagine, for them. But I mean, he's pretty amazing. I can't imagine a better defensive catcher in the history of the game. It's obviously a thing that it's difficult to gauge, because I think looking back over the years, it was either you were one or the other. And I think a lot of defensive catchers got bad reputations because they couldn't hit, right? So yeah, I mean, I'd be hard pressed to say that there's a better defensive catcher of all time. And I'm going to be frank with you. I didn't really pay attention to catchers when I was growing up. I didn't care. I just didn't think it was that big a deal.
Well, Pudge. Ivan Rodriguez
Was Pudge that good a defender, or was he just really like good at throwing guys out because he got himself into throwing situations? He called like it was. I mean, reported he called fastballs in every running count of all time.
Did he do that? Is that a thing?
That's stuff I've heard around the game.
I'll tell you what, he threw a lot of people out, and he's built like a cannonball, and he threw rockets.
Yeah, he did have a cannon. Yeah, I want to see catcher caught stealing percentage all time. This is where it gets like incredibly difficult for you and I to have this conversation. Catcher caught stealing percentage of all time. Roy Campanella, never watched him play. Gabby Hartnett, Buddy Roser, Al Lopez, Mickey O'Neill, Hank Dowdy, Ray Mueller, Jimmy Archer, Sam Agnew is the first name I recognize. Not even well. Patsy Garrity, that's a great name. Oh, wait, Ray Schalk was in front of him. So get down to 12 is Gus Mancuso, 13 Paul Richards, Clyde Klutz, Mickey Owen, Ira Thomas, Walter Schmidt, Jimmy Hegan, Patty Livingston, Roy Spencer, Zach Taylor, Joe Astroth, Wes Westrom, Ben Egan.
Jake Taylor?
I mean, all right, number 33 is probably the first one that anybody really knows. His name's Yogi Berra. Yogi threw out runners at a 48.61 clip. 48.61% clip. I mean, there's so many names on this list that I don't know because that's how much I just didn't care about catchers. And clearly none of these guys could hit other than Campanella and Berra, because if not, you'd know who they are better than this, right?
Yeah.
And just for context, those guys are all – Pudge is 85th on the all-time caught stealing list at 45.68%. And where's Yachty? We got to find Yachty.
I got a different list than you. I got a different list.
All right, what do you got? I'm on Baseball
Reference.
I'm on Baseball Reference too. I don't know if there's a threshold here for number of caught stealing. I think this is how many years all these guys played too.
Yeah. Well, I think we can move on and just say Yachty. Like, are there any other catchers that wear the Jumpman? Because that's probably the best separator. Right
there. You have Jordan catcher's gear. They don't make that for
anybody. If you got the Jumpman on your chest, you're doing something right.
Yeah, Jumpman. Damn boys up to something.
Last, Jose Iglesias is a magician. I'm glad I found this Instagram by MLB. I don't know. He's sideways. He's like upside down. He's like this. And
you look like you're at shortstop doing it right now too. You're at shortstop at Round Rock.
Pardon my green screen on my kitchen windows here. But he just goes like that and he throws it across the diamond. How do you do that? He's falling like he's angled. His body's like I didn't get it. He's like horizontal, like his head is like his whole body's pointing like down like towards the third baseline. And he's like Supermaning and flicking his wrist and falling down.
Look at that wrist. Look at that wrist.
That was a good tweet. Yeah. I just don't understand it. I don't know how you do that.
That's sorcery. I tweeted it out. It's sorcery. There's no it literally unfathomable. Like I've seen him do it before, and it's even more impressive now because he's 7 years older, and I can't conceptualize the ability to do that. Like I've tried to throw balls with no arm action. Like essentially you have to create your like little figure eight. Like you got to do your perfect throw with just your wrist to get anything on that ball. And not to mention you're falling down completely hunched over. And both times I've seen him do it, he's hit the first baseman right in the chest.
Yeah.
That play is that I'm gonna go out on a limb. And granted spring training, and we did it once in the regular season at Fenway. That's the best play I've ever seen.
It's pretty impressive. He had a pretty good year in 2019.
He could always hit. he had sneaky good moves, man. When we played against him in AAA, I remember it was like 2013. I played against him in AAA. He was up and down, and people weren't sold on his bat, but he always had good moves. He just needed to figure some stuff out. And if you go, I mean, he's probably hovering around 300 career batting average if I had to guess.
278.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the neighborhood. Definitely more than people thought he was going to hit. Let's put it that way. I think people were picturing him in like the Ozzy. People were picturing this guy in the Ray Ordonez, Ozzie Smith batting average categories. So kudos to him because 280 is no joke to play shortstop at the high level that he does. Ray Ordonez is a sick shortstop too, man. Wow. He could do some things.
His defensive WAR in 2016 was 18. In 17 was 14.4. In 18 was 13.6. In Cincinnati in 19 was 11.9.
Do you know how many Gold Gloves he has?
Iglesias?
Yeah.
0.
Pretty crazy.
Who's winning Gold Glove this short? How do I find that? Patrick, he hates when we look up stats when we do this.
Andrelton Simmons.
Is he winning them
all? Yep. And Iglesias been back and forth American League, National League. Brandon Crawford won one. But not Josie Iglesias. He's been hurt a little bit too, so I don't think he's really played a full season. Maybe he did. He played a lot of years in Detroit, but Andrelton Simmons was in for most of those years. Who was winning the American League Gold Glove at shortstop?
J.P. Crawford. We're going backwards. J.P. Crawford, Francisco Lindor, Andrelton Simmons, Francisco Lindor, Alcides Escobar, J.J. Hardy 3 years in a row.
Yeah,
J.J. Jeter won at least 5, and then Omar Vizquel just won forever.
Yeah. All sides Escobar won a Gold Glove. That's weird to me. I didn't think he was a very good defender.
Michael Young won one. Eric Ibar.
I mean, if you hadn't said Michael Young, I would have never even put him in the shortstop category. That guy could hit.
Good player.
That play was magic. No.
How many career hits does Michael Young have?
Did you get to 3,000?
I feel like there was a moment where he did, but he did not.
2,000 maybe then.
Yeah, 2375.
Yeah, so then they celebrated the 2,000.
Hit twice. Yeah.
He could hit. He was a 200 hit guy. Yeah.
Patrick, if you don't put this in, if you don't put the Iglesias play in, then people go make sure you go and look at that play because it was. I don't know. I couldn't make that play. That's for sure.
I couldn't even throw a ball like that.
The one in Detroit, he got like a little arm circle on.
Yeah.
I guess he did in this one too, but it was like it's so quick. It's just like
it just looks like it literally looks like he's pushing the ball to first base.
He does it so fast.
That's how fast it is. And they threw out Kyle Lewis, right? That guy flies.
It's crazy. When the one from today, when it was like that slow check swingy kind of.
The first one was at the White Sox. He threw out Josh Begley. He didn't throw out. It wasn't at the Fenway. It was against Josh Begley. It was with Detroit. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't see.
Throwing out Josh Begley and Kyle Lewis, 2 different things.
Both are stupid. Both are just absurd.
Yeah.
All right.
Good times.
Pickle. That's a Sunday night pickle for you.
Nice. Bryson DeChambeau.
Did it.
Bay Hill Invitation.
377-yard drive. It's pretty cool.
Sorry about it.
Mad scientist. That guy's crazy in all the right ways.
I love it. He's good, man. He had so much respect. He called Arnold Palmer Mr. Palmer the whole post-tournament interview. It was awesome.
I saw that. And Tiger Woods texted him. Tiger Woods from the hospital bed texted him, "Play bold." That's awesome. How do you stop your adrenaline from flowing if you get a text from Tiger Woods saying, "Go get him"?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Did you see him go after that last putt too? Like he tried to make birdie on 18, and he only needed par at that point. He left himself a nice little 5-6 footer to come back up the hill to tie it. Westwood made a nice putt to put the pressure on.
I was watching.
Good last hole.
I was watching. Very good. And that was Golf by Pelotero Pickle.
See ya.
Pickle out.
Pickle out.